Hawks President of Basketball Operations and General Manager Travis Schlenk joining us today. If you have a question, please raise your hand in Zoom, and I will call on you. If you're not asking a question, if you could stay on mute, that would be fantastic. We will get started with Sarah Spencer from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Hey, Travis, how are you?
Well, how are you, Sarah?
Good. What has the transition been like going from phase 1 to phase 2 for you guys?
Well, it's only 2 hours old, but no, we met at the facility this morning, and then we all got in Sprinter vans and came over to the hotel that we're going to be staying at for the next 2 weeks. We did our testing, we got our breakfast, and now everyone's settled in the rooms. For the next 2 days, we'll be in our rooms, get 2 more negative tests for everybody, hopefully. And then on Wednesday, we'll have our first practice back at the practice facility.
Awesome, thank you.
Zach Klein.
Hey, Travis, you guys get ready for the draft. How many game changers are in this draft? How many guys do you think that can be, legit, all-stars on a year-on-year basis? And how would that compare to previous drafts?
Well, I don't think it's a secret that, people don't look at this draft as a draft, top heavy per se, but there's always guys that outperform where they're projected, no question. And it's just trying to find those guys. So even though this draft might not have the hype of some drafts in the past, there'll be good players there. And we feel really confident that we're going to get a good player at 6.
Okay, next question, Terrell Thomas.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Travis. What are your expectations? I'm quite sure you're excited to be back around the team and have all the guys back together. But what are your expectations during the mini camp? What type of progress are you looking to see?
I think the biggest thing that we want to accomplish out of this is just get our group together and build some more camaraderie. This is the first time Clint's going to have the opportunity to play with our group. That's going to be big for us. But it's also the first time for our young guys that they've been able to play since March. So it's just getting everyone back together and just really work on a lot of bonding and chemistry stuff. It's tough in a 2-week window to really accomplish a lot from a basketball perspective. But from a team building perspective, we feel like that we can accomplish a lot with this little window.
Next question from Jamila.
Good morning, Travis. How are you?
Well, how are you?
Great, thank you. So I know you mentioned Clint Capela a little bit, but have you seen him out in practice, and what are you kind of expecting for him in terms of him kind of joining the lineup?
Yeah, so he's been back in Atlanta for a few weeks, just doing the individual workouts. Those are tough to see a lot, to be honest, because it's, just been one coach out there and himself. So this will be the first time we actually get to see him go up and down with our guys, which will be exciting. But again, for a lot of these guys, they haven't been able to go up and down since March. So we want to make sure that we're cautious with them physically, and we don't run out there the first day and have, 2 or 3 guys pull a hamstring or something like that. So, trying to build these guys up in a 2-week window and still make it productive is what we're going to try to do on the court. But again, having everyone together, spending so much time together, here in the hotel and when we're not here at the practice facility, is just really work on bonding these guys on a personal level.
Okay, next question, Alex Glaze.
Hey, Travis. You talked about focusing on 6 as the plan right now. I know you can't predict what's going to happen on draft day, but is the plan to stay at 6? Are you looking at options to move up? Are you looking at everything? Just kind of what's your approach to this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we've proven we're not scared to move up, to move back. We've just now started, dialogue with all the other teams now that, everybody's kind of locked in their positions, and obviously most teams are out of the Orlando bubble. So, we'll gauge and see, what we think the best value for that pick is. As I mentioned, we'll be comfortable picking at 6, no question. But we'll also gauge and see if we feel like there's value to move up or value to move back and still, get the guy that we're looking at.
Next question, Mark Medina with USA Today.
Hey, Travis, good to see you.
You're up early, man.
You know what? I am, but I'm here on the East Coast a little bit, seeing family. So,
All right.
yeah, I know there's so much unknown about what next season will look like as far as the start date and the format. Have you gotten any clarity one way or the other, kind of where things stand now, and how do you prepare for that unknown?
Yeah, no, I think that's been the hardest part for our guys in general, is just because of the unprecedented times we're in, is just the unknown, the inability to set a calendar. Typically the NBA calendar runs like clockwork, right? We all know when the season starts. We all know when it ends. We all know when the playoffs ends. We all know where the draft is. And, really not just for the players, but for staffs too. We've been back in market since early May, doing these individual workouts. And, we've taken a few weeks off just to give the staff and the guys a chance to get away, because we've just kind of been stuck in this, individual workout window. So it's great that we got have this period. We know after this period that we have 2 weeks off. And then we'll get back into the individual workouts. The NBA, as you guys are all aware, have given us the November 16th date or 18th date for the draft. So we're moving in that direction. So the hardest part about this has been the unknown, not having that set calendar, but now it feels like it's starting to come together a little bit.
All right, next question, Chris Kirschner.
Hey, Travis, are you expecting any of the pending free agents to participate in these 2 weeks? So like guys like Jeff and Scal?
We do have one of those guys participating this week.
And I'm guessing you're keeping that secret?
Yeah, our plan is to put out a roster at some point this week, but for now we're going to keep that out of your hands, I guess.
Gotcha.
Back to Sarah.
Travis, I know you said a few times you're kind of going to look to add depth in free agency. I was just curious, what are your thoughts on the market of guys who will be available now that you can kind of look forward to that?
Yeah, I can't really comment on guys' names yet, because typically they're not free agents yet. But as I've said before, there's good players out there. We'll go and try to get guys we think they're going to fit well with our guys for sure. If we can, find a guy that fits from an age perspective, we won't be scared to give out maybe a longer contract than we have in the past. But if it's an older guy, maybe we'll look to do a shorter contract. But, we will have cap space, and we'll look to use it this year as well.
Okay. Next question, Emmanuel Glaze.
Hey, Travis. Quick question. Have you been working with the younger players since you do this as a younger team to stay focused and to keep them engaged in this season and getting ready for this mini camp? What have been some of the things you've done with those younger players to keep them up to date, keep them focused, and things of that nature?
Yeah, no. So it's certainly been harder this offseason because of the pandemic than a normal offseason with these guys. As I mentioned, just the inability to give them some sort of concrete calendar. It seemed like for months, we have 2 Zooms a week with them. That's how we were communicating. And then, I'd get on there and say, all right, next week, this is what's going to happen. We feel good about it. And it's a lot of it's played out in the media. So you guys are aware, first we were going to go to Orlando, and then it was, we were going to Minnesota or Detroit. And then it was, we're going to Chicago for a bubble. And then it was in market, and then it was back to Orlando. And, I'm sure they think I have no idea what's going on in the world, because every week I lied to them basically. So the fact that we finally have this period and, get it on the calendar, and we kind of know what's happening in the next few weeks after this has been great. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the Zoom calls, just trying to communicate with them. As you guys all know, Coach Pierce has done an unbelievable job with our young guys, but also the public, and with everything that's going on in our society, getting out there and being vocal and really leading our guys through this time.
Okay, back to Zach Klein.
Hey, Trav, how much of your prep work for guys coming out is done during the NCAA tournaments? And that with that being shut down, were you behind? And what did you do to alter and fill the space between, I guess, March and end of April?
Yeah, tricky part about this draft is there are a lot of guys at the top of the draft who didn't play much, got hurt, left college early, left their teams overseas early. As you alluded to, we didn't have conference tournaments this year. We didn't have the NCAA tournament this year as well. So it's not a huge part. We use those events to go see guys maybe we weren't able to see in the regular season. But, you could be missing out on as many as, 5, 6, 10 games that some of these kids would have played that we'd have been able to evaluate them. The good news, if there's good news here, is, we weren't the only team that missed out. The other 29 teams are in the same boat. So, it's still an even playing field. Obviously, the more you get to see these guys play, the better. But again, we're all playing the same deck of cards here. So we just go out there and take what we have on record and use that for our evaluation.
And then just to follow up on that, were you spending more time looking at old game film, more time spending on reaching out to assistant coaches, high school coaches, that thing to get a bit better feel of the guy?
Yeah, both. We do a pretty in-depth job reaching out to all the coaches and trainers, even all the way back to high school and AAU for intel on these guys. And we've just been doing deep dives into film. We started watching a lot more AAU film on a lot of these young guys as well, because you can get a lot of matchups with, a lot of the top freshmen in the country, maybe don't play each other, but they play each other in EYBL or whatever. So those services are out there as well.
Thank you.
Okay, back to Terrell Thomas.
Travis, we've heard a few of the cons possibly, or some of the challenging things that may come about, of course, with the draft being moved back to November and then the season possibly starting in December or later. But could you talk about some of the things that may give your young team an advantage, having this time off, being able to build now, and then moving forward with some of the things that may be an advantage for your young team?
The advantage, that's tough, because if we were in a normal offseason, we're able to get guys on the floor and have them playing against each other, but we're not. As I mentioned, after we get through this 2-week period, we'll be right back to the 1-on-0. So from an individual skills perspective, that's great, but, a lot of our guys, they just need to play. They need the experience of playing. And, this is unfortunately an offseason where we're not getting that. We're not getting summer league, at least, right now, that would have been great. As we all know, DeAndre, Cam, those guys getting to play summer league last year, and whoever we draft in November, that opportunity is not there. So it really is. It's not, I wish I could tell you there are a bunch of positives, but it's really hard to see them. And, the fact that we were unable to go to Orlando, that hurts. Those teams in Orlando got 11 games. And the league's done a great job giving us window, but this 2 weeks is not going to equal it to 11 games that those teams got.
Question from Houston Jameson.
Good morning, everybody. Travis, we've heard over the summer, John Collins talking about being interested in receiving a max contract. Have those talks started? Are we active in those talks, and how are they going at this point?
No, so we're not able to negotiate extensions for anyone yet. That would happen whenever free agency begins. So that window does not open yet. But when that window does open up, we'll certainly have conversations with John's representatives.
Okay, next up, Kevin Chenard.
You're muted.
Have you got any feedback from the players as far as what they want from this really long off season? And is there a possibility of something like a summer league around Thanksgiving or something?
Not that I'm aware of as far as a possibility of a summer league. I don't know. I do think no one's told me this, but I got to believe it to be true that the NBA is taking a long, hard look to see how these 8 teams work in their bubble just moving forward. The one thing that we all know about the Orlando bubble is it's worked really, really well. But I think there's certainly got to be some interest in the folks in the league office is, can we pull this off in market kind of thing? And they're evaluating everything as far as next year. There's no question. It's been stated. Everyone wants to have a season next year, and everyone wants to go, as smoothly and as soon as possible. But from day one, health and safety has been at the forefront in the league's mind.
Okay, back to Sarah.
Travis, obviously this is a younger team, and I remember Lloyd saying a couple times it's also a little bit of a quieter team. How important is it to build up as much team chemistry and comfort level as you can, even in the limited time that you have, now that you can add Clint to the mix?
No, it's certainly, like I said, that's the biggest thing that we hope to accomplish this week. There's not going to be a ton that we're going to be able to accomplish in this limited time, from an X and O standpoint, but we can build that camaraderie, having our guys hang out all the time here in the hotel. The staff did a great job putting this hotel together for us. We've got a lot of areas where guys can socialize, socially distance. So it really turned out I'm really happy with the way the hotel turned out.
Okay, back to Alex Glaze.
Hey, Travis. Yeah, just to go back to the pre-draft process now, just how much in past years of your evaluation has gone into those in-person workouts, and how much is it going to, obviously that's not the case now, but how much does it make your job a little bit harder now that, I think you get 45-minute videos or something like that? Just how does that change things for you?
Yeah, I think one of the big things, as we mentioned, a lot of these guys, didn't play a lot in college or played overseas. So the in-person workouts, not that you put a ton of stock in the workout, but just being able to see them, getting a sense for how big they are, how athletic they are, how strong they are. And, not having those, that's the importance of actually going to these games and seeing these guys. Cause it's a lot of times off video, you don't get the feel for that you do in person, as you guys know, by going to games. So that's really the big disadvantage that we have this year from past years. But again, as I mentioned, this isn't unique to the Atlanta Hawks situation. This is every team in the league. So, we're on even footing with everyone else.
All right, question from Generica Owens.
Yeah, Travis, with the draft coming up in November and us having the 6th pick, we could potentially get power forward OP Toppin from Dayton. What do you think that he could bring to the team if we get him?
Yeah, I can't really comment on him as a player, but I would say that he is certainly a player that we project to go in the lottery, but I'm not really allowed to comment on him because he's not a senior directly. Sorry.
All right, back to Mr. Zach Klein.
How much hoop have you watched, Travis, of late? More than usual? And watching these final four teams, is your philosophy of what it takes to build a championship team or get to that elite level, has it changed at all?
So no, I'm watching all the games, although when they go past 10:30, I'm usually out. I can't stay up that late, to be honest with you. That's what I miss about the West Conference Finals, and just seeing how those teams are playing out there, and how you have to have versatile guys on the floor. You're seeing a lot of small ball now. You're starting to see a lot of zone out there. So it goes back to what we've stated the whole time I've been here, having guys that all dribble, pass, and shoot. Like if you have a guy on the floor who doesn't have one of those skills, you're playing 4-on-5. So I think the other thing, and we'll talk a lot about this with our guys this week, is just how physical those guys are playing out there and how competitive they are, and just the level of competition, and just trying to get our guys to see that and understand it. Which will be another thing, we're going to do here in the hotel. What we can do is, have watch parties. So we'll be able to watch the games, with our guys and point stuff out and talk about stuff. So again, that's just another one of the things that we'll do over the next 2 weeks. Watch these games together, which I guess I'll have to stay up past 10:30 if it's a late game.
They're all late, my man. You'll be up.
I don't have to get up at 6:30 anymore, I guess. I don't have to help. My wife's got the kid duty for 2 weeks, so I guess I can sleep in a little bit more.
Okay, back to Mark Medina.
Hey, Travis, I know the health and safety was the biggest thing the NBA was weighing, but the fact that none of the 8 teams are going to be able to have like any inter squad competition, what do you think are the long-term ramifications that it's just, with the team?
No, we can have inter squad competition. So the rules allow us to play 5-on-5 for up to 1 hour per day.
Yeah, I meant with against other teams.
Oh, with other teams. Yeah. No, I mean, listen, as I said, having the opportunity to have those 11 games would have been extremely valuable especially for our young group. But the decision was made to take 22 teams. I understand why. And the league understands that, there's something we're missing out on, and that's why they've given us this window. So we plan to take advantage of it best we can.
Okay, back to Terrell Thomas.
Travis, you mentioned a moment ago about the great work that Coach Pierce has been doing publicly with everything that's been going on as far as the pandemic and then social injustice. Of course, it's well known that the Atlanta Hawks weren't in the bubble, but they still found a way to stay trending and setting trends across America with the Hawks and your staff opening up State Farm Arena, of course, as a polling site. We've seen so many organizations throughout sports in general, whether it be NFL, other NBA franchises, Major League Baseball, also electing to use their stadiums or arenas as polling sites. Can you talk to me about how you feel with the Hawks setting that standard and just how that looks moving forward?
Yeah, no. So Steve Koonin came up with the idea, and it's just an unbelievable idea. I think, well, personally and organizationally, it's extremely important for everyone to exercise their right to vote. And anytime that you see oppression, certainly that's not what we stand for, myself personally or the Atlanta Hawks. So anything we can do to help the community, to give everyone an equal opportunity, we're going to do that. And, when Steve came up with that idea, you have to give Fulton County a lot of credit. Fulton County jumped on board right away again. And we're not picking a side. We're giving everybody the opportunity to make their own decision, but to be heard. And that's the most important thing here. And I think it's great that you're seeing a ton of other organizations do the exact same thing. And you have to give those municipalities credit too, because they could say no, but they're not. They're opening it up. So I think it's to be applauded for certain.
Okay, and back to Emmanuel Glaze.
Travis, just going into, if I'm not mistaken, your 4th draft this upcoming November. When you first drafted, you had a plan and together, and you had some ideas. Are you still feeling like you're with that plan, or are things changing as seasons have changed? How you feel about where you were at the beginning of this process to where you are now?
Well, I mean, we feel like through the first, 3 drafts, that we've been able to accomplish what we wanted to. We went out, we feel good about our young core. We're able to get multiple picks in a lot of those years. So we do feel, obviously, we're going to go into this draft with the same plan, right? Get the best player we can, maximize the value of the pick that we have. But I think as the plan starts to develop, now that we have this young core and we feel good about it, now we have to start become more a little strategic in what we do in trades. As you guys are all aware, trade wise, up until this past trade deadline, a lot of the trades we've made were to use our cap space to accumulate more assets. And so now what you saw, especially with the Clint deal, we start to make trades to add to our group, just trying to fill in where we feel like we need help with the draft picks we've made. So the same thing in free agency, past free agency, what you've seen us do are take on salary to accumulate picks or more young players. So in free agency, we'll look to get, more aggressive to fill holes on our roster, guys that we think have long-term futures with our young core.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there are currently no hands raised. Any